Hi folks, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. What you see in the vise is a large marabou streamer. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanak 970 barbless hook. This one's at size 10, it's called a streamer wave, and it's finished on a heavy wire in black nickel. I've coupled that with an orange brass bead at 3.8, and the thread I'm going to be using today is from Simplify. It's nano silk at 6/0 or 100D, and as you can see, it's in black. As always with the nano silks, a touch of super glue on the shank will help you out immensely with stopping body rotation. The really shiny hooks and the nano silks don't really get on particularly well, and any encouragement you can give them with some super glue always helps. So I'm going to just get a bed of thread all the way down, and I'm going to bring that all the way to the back to just where the pronounced bump is on the 970. You can see here there's a pronounced bump, and then I can come in with my scissors and take away my excess. Now, as this is going to be quite a long marabou tail, I like to add a little lump of thread at the back here. It just helps with hook fouling, I find. Some people put a turn of thread once they've got their tail in place. I like to have this bump of thread at the back. I'm going to bring my thread all the way to the front, give myself a bit of room, and the marabou I'm going to be using is from Comp Candy. I don't believe this is available anymore, but it's the Blackjack Marabou. I've still got a decent supply of it, and I've got a feather here. Now, I've purposely removed this bit at the bottom, which you see on the other side, because it was too short for what I want. I want a nice long marabou tail, and what I'm going to take is from my thumbnail to my knuckle. Like so, then I can get it all together. Now, before I tie it in, just over my waist bin, I want to remove the white stalks. Then I can come in, leaving about 3 to 4 millimeters away from the bead, and catch that in. Now, because I'm using the 100D nano silk, I can put as much pressure on this as I like to get that nice slim body. I'm going to come all the way back to where the bump is that I created, and there's my marabou tail in. Now, the flash that you've seen in the pattern, this comes from Crystal Flash. This one's from Simplify. It's nice and thin, and what I want is 3 strands, 2 strands if you prefer. It's up to you what you tie in, and you don't have to use Crystal Flash. You can use whatever you see fit. But what I'm going to do is get the 3 strands that I've captured here, and I'm going to bring my thread halfway up the body just to trap that into place. Then once I've got a few turns in, I can tidy it all up. Then take the 3 strands that are pointing towards the eye, pull it in over onto your side, and I want that to come up the side of the shank, which will happen as I catch my wraps around the shank there. So that's looking pretty good. Obviously, I don't want to leave that Crystal Flash too long, so I can come in and just remove the excess. Now I'm going to wet my thumb and forefinger, just dampen everything down. See how it's looking wet, and that's okay. Next then, I'm going to tie in a wire rib. I'm using 0.1mm silver wire, and I've already got a little bit that I've been using previously. So I'll catch that in and bring it all the way back to the butt of the fly. Now, we're going to dub the body, and what I'm going to use, if I can find it, is some pure squirrel dubbing from Trout line, and this has been dyed black. I've got a little bit out of the packet and I'm just going to dub that on. Doesn't need to be particularly neat. This is a big bulky pattern. You're going to get a lot of movement from this fly, and that's the whole idea. It's a big hearty meal for any patrolling trout. I wouldn't fish it as a team. I would be fishing this on its own, on maybe a 10-foot leader, floating line or an intermediate. Just need a little bit more dubbing onto there. Now, as I come up towards the end, I don't want to finish right on the bead. I want to leave maybe 2 or 3 millimeters just at the front there, and there's a reason for that we'll come on to towards the end. Now, I'm going to use a cock cape here. Now, you might think that this is not required, but the reason that I'm using this is to create a bulk at the front of the fly. Now, I want to do that because of when you're fishing this fly, and if I get a chance, I'll get this in the swim tank and let you have a little look at the end of the video. I don't want the fly collapsing completely. Now, marabou's quite a thin material. Thin, sparse material. Once it's wet, it collapses to nothing. So what I don't want is the front end of the fly collapsing on itself. I want to have this bulk to create that teardrop effect. So the first couple of turns with my hackle is going to be on top of itself, because that's going to keep the marabou from collapsing. Then I can bring my cock hackle all the way back to meet my wire rib, and then all I've got to do is hook up my hackle pliers and then bring the wire rib up through the hackling. Don't worry if you catch some fibres in, it's not going to make much difference with this pattern. Then I can capture that wire like so, just 2 or 3 turns. Make sure you get 2 or 3 turns in front of the wire. Then holding on to your thread, you can simply twist that away. Then with a pair of sharp scissors, come in with your hackle and remove your waste. So far so good. Now, points to note at this stage, I've got plenty of room at the front. You're going to need that. So, back to our stock of marabou. Now, if you haven't got one of these fancy Petition clips, mine's is knackered, I keep meaning to buy some new ones, haven't got round to it. Use a bulldog clip. There are other clips available on the market, but I would caution you that I've tried most of them and the Petition ones are the best, without a doubt. I'm going to take the entire length of the clip, which is approximately 10 centimetres, and then I'm going to trim, might not be able to see on camera here, this away from the stalk. So what I've got is my marabou all trapped nicely into my clip. Now, I could have made a dubbing loop at this point, but I always find it much easier and neater just to split my thread. So I'm going to come in with my dubbing needle in behind the thread, and because I'm using the 6/0, it's easy on my old eyes. So I'm able to come in and split that, no problem at all. Slip your material into the clip, into the gap in the thread, and remove your clip. Now, what I want to do next is spin that up. This is going to make me a fantastic cloak for the front of the fly. Now, I think there might be just a wee bit too much, so just at the bottom here I'm starting to thin that out. Now you can see that as I'm winding this up, there is quite a lot of bulk. I don't want to strip it out with my fingers because I want that bulk in the fly. The hackle's going to stop it folding in on itself once it's wet. But I needed this space at the front between the hackle and the bead to house this part here. Don't let it unwind on you. Then I'm going to come back to the edge of the fly. Now, as I'm winding this up, I'm just using my fingers to stroke it back. Now, the more discerning, experienced puddle bashers that are watching may be thinking that the tail is too long and all I'll get all day is tail nips. And that is one of the problems when you're fishing with a long-tailed fly such as this. You are going to get a lot of tail nips. But there's a simple solution to that. And that is, you simply pluck away a bit of the tail. What I would suggest is that if you're getting tail nips, there's a couple of things you can do to convert them to takes, proper takes. And one of the things is to speed up your retrieve. It does make the fish come in a lot quicker. Or you simply pluck away the ends of the tail here until you get a bit more of your hook nearer to the dressing. Now I'm just adding some super glue to my thread because what I want to do when I whip finish is to keep that thread tucked into the bead and secure. Tighten that up. Then with my toothbrush, which I have here, I can come in, try and ease up some of them fibres. Now I've dampened it down quite a bit with my fingers, and the reason for that is it's just easier to work with. And then once it's finished and it dries out, you'll get a nice long-tailed lure. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks very much for watching the video. Please don't forget to give it a like, and I'll see you all next time.